Hey, so since we killed this boss today, I figured I might as well go over some of the things you might miss by just watching a video, because this boss has a lot of small details you want to pay attention to. So first of all, this fire beam, as you might know from heroic, it just targets the average position of your raid. So ideally, you have your casters, maybe warlocks or whatever, positioned ahead of time already. Everyone else just stack under the boss. And then these fire beams, they are a little bit random. It's their direction is pretty consistent for the first one. It's random if this one comes first or this one. I, as a tank, always try to face the boss the same way, like either this or 180 degrees to the other side, because this way the mushrooms spawn very consistently in like this square. It's not like super important, but it gives consistency to everyone else on the raid. So I figured I might as well. I also just probably defensive because I might have to tank some star fragments. And these star fragments are also not to be underestimated for a lot of melees. Like we had some just random deaths because people are lazy dodging for boss uptime. And these lasers, they are also like their hitbox is a little bit bigger than they appear. So you just want to make double sure that you're not in them basically. And for tanks on this first set, it is very likely that you will have to run through one of these fire beams to get to your mushrooms. So I cover this with early on with a Celestial Brew, and then I have my Rage Heart as well for a big absorb. If you don't have that, maybe you run Diffuse or like just make sure you have a plan for this. Basically, it will happen. Sometimes you even have to tank multiple beams in just one mushroom wave. And just generally for these mushrooms, of course, for Mythic, tanks just alternate between green and red. I have this weak aura here always telling me, it's just like in this regular pack here. You can select in custom options which mushroom you are taking first, so make sure you have that selected. And then right after spawning the mushrooms, he also does the feathers. For the feathers, I always try to face the boss towards like one of the mushrooms. Like if you move away instantly, he might be facing towards the fire, for example. And we thought that's bad because he always spawns one feather in front and one behind. And you see this way now, 2 spawn in fire, and these 4, like you can't see the last one here, but these 4, they are all accessible. If you spawned one in front of him, then that one is in fire, and the 2 next to them can also just barely be in fire, and then you're in a bit of a weird situation where you can maybe only access 3 of them easily. That's also why I want these mushrooms in this exact pattern, so I can then face the boss 45-degree side and then get these better feather spawns. Also, I am fully speed enchanted, basically. Yeah, boots, bracers, and cloak, just because this fight doesn't really do anything to tanks. So you might as well just get the extra speed. Not have any issues here. Especially the diagonal moves. You have to be careful. I just always have roll for those. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff happening at the very start of the fight. Yeah, you will have a lot of wipes here. And the other thing that's also happening at the same time is fiery growth. It will always target one of your ranged healers. So in our case, it will be either one of the priests or our evoker healer. The healers also, that's why the healers, they want to be pre-positioned when you do the dispel, because you don't have a lot of time to dispel all of these. You have to you want to do the first one really ASAP. So that's basically true for every fiery growth set, that your healers want to be pre-positioned. And then the prio works in a way that like you can see it here basically if you look at it. Warlock always gets second for us because Warlock has to reposition a gateway at the end of P2, so we always wanted Warlock 2. And this is the Evoker, and then see last will always be Hunter. There's the reason basically for that is because Hunters can break themselves out of roots. So can mages, which is not necessarily needed because you have other root removals assigned, but it's always a bonus if the person can self-break them. And the way we do the dispels is See, the first one is basically like where the boss is, just towards the edge. And then 2 and 3 go to the right side. And 4 you always want on the left side on this set, because that's where you're moving next. So this way they're in range of the healers. And just quickly, so you see how the dispel works from the healer point of view. If you're using my weak aura, or I assume I think the liquid one is very similar. Basically, for me, it's just in this case, our priest here is assigned for the third dispel, so it will be glowing red from the start. First dispel happens from someone else. Second dispel will happen now. Now, third, his dispel is about to come up, and the moment he saves the dispel, this glow turns green. So this is when you know, okay, I can dispel. The vulnerability is not on the raid anymore, and like for 2, 3, and 4, you have to assume that the person is already on the correct position. If they're not, you're like basically too slow already. And for the first one, most of the time the healer should always also already be in pre-position. So like if you get to a new part first time or whatever, maybe don't assume it, you know. Yeah, this is how the weak aura works. It's pretty brain dead to do, to be honest. Like you shouldn't have much issues with that if you just follow the glow. And then for the flying part, so for the feathers, there's like multiple ways to assign who takes which flare bomb in the air. Or like first of all, the feathers, we go from left to right. So basically, in this case, you tell the furthest left person to take the furthest left feather that is not in fire, which in this case is this one. And then the same happens on the right side, so it's this one. And then the two other ones, they adjust, go to the next one that this person took. Sometimes there's like cases, for example, this feather, it's like barely in fire, right? So you could just be on the edge, take the feather, and still mount up without being in fire. So in this case, like sometimes you want to do that, because if you don't, you only have 3 feathers out of the fire, and then like someone has to run into the fire later, and everything gets delayed. And delaying the flies is really, really bad. Like except for like some easier overlaps, but most of them it's really bad if one person is late already. And just so you see how the flying works in general, this is like in P2, but it's basically the same. You want to be standing on the spawn already, yeah, to do it instantly. Instantly do your mount up, fly up, and like he does a second upward thing now. I do it a little bit differently. I think you want to whirling surge first and then turn around. Yeah, it's no big difference, but I think whirling surge first is better. And then the way we assign these, like who's taking which flare bomb, yeah. Actually pull up raid plan. So there's 2 ways to do this. The first one, let's say these are your 4 feathers. Boss is here, like, and then you have. So this is. Okay, this is. Let's see. These are the flare bombs. Those are the ones in the air, and these are the feather spawns. Okay. Now, what I think is most logical, though, only one of the 2 groups from us did it this way. This feather goes here. This goes here, here, here. And then you just do this every time. If the boss is over here, do it like this, yeah. This one goes here, 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 here. This is one way to do it. The other way to do it is to just say, like especially for P3, because in P1 and P2 you only fly once, but in P3 everyone flies twice. You just make a raid plan or whatever, and you tell your raiders, this is where the flare bombs spawn. You warrior, you always take this one. This one in the room, no matter where your feather pickup is, no matter where the boss is, this is where the flare bombs you take. This is the other option. You just have to decide what works best for your guild, basically. And then everyone is on the same page. And yeah, then you see root happens. Sometimes you have a really late beam going through the boss here. You have to be very careful. Like this is already late, but there's later ones. And then obviously you still have to dodge the beam. And it's very good to call out this beam if there's like ever a late beam going through the raid, because it's not easy to see for rangers here sometimes. For the roots in general, you want to stack up with like 2 to maybe maximum 3 other people, depending on the set. Especially this one, it's a bit easy because there's people flying that don't get roots, the tank don't get roots, there's 2 people outside that don't get roots, so you don't have to stack too tight. And in our case here, we actually only had 3 people fly up. This is intentional. Because we already have so much passive AoE on the vines that they just die with 3 flyers consistently. They even died with 2 or whatever. So we decided, okay, I just take the feather late as tank, because that way we lose less damage, right? If you have a DPS flying, you lose a little bit of damage, but if I just take it late, we lose less raid damage. So I just pick up the flare bomb here, go straight back into the boss, and that's it. Then you get to the possibly hardest part of the entire fight, to be honest. This entangling cast, because you have double fire beams here before, which, by the way, like you've bait the first one here and then you just move a little bit before you move really far. Make sure you have a movement speed buff here, and then the tank has to find a good spot basically here. You want to be safe. Like for example, this would be a really good spot where my mouse is right now. This is like the longest time you're safe. You see, we have 3 vines. Where is it? 3 actually. I thought it should be 2 anyway. 2 or 3 vines left. Those are the demon hunters. I don't know who the third one is, because the demon hunters, they can't break themselves out, so they sit in the vines. I'm not exactly sure about the rotation, but they pop their damage, and then like during the fell barrage channel or whatever, they go into Netherwalk in case a beam runs over them. So they just have to be safe for like the first 2 seconds or whatever. And everyone else, they just break their roots basically. And yeah, you just have to make sure you're assigning freedoms, Tiger's Last or whatever. Um, Disc Priests can also break themselves out. I don't know how their talent is called. It's whatever the new one in 10.2. If you're low end freedoms, they can run their talent and break themselves out. There's also a hypothetical thing you can do is like, because you now have 6 feathers here, right? There's 2 extra. You can pick one up really late, and then you still have the feather buff when the next roots happen, and then you just don't get a root at all. But I would only like recommend doing these things if your comp is like really bad for root removals. Otherwise, really make sure everyone gets out of this root. Pop immunities if you have to. Like don't like think, oh, I want to save this immunity or whatever. Yeah, just pop them honestly. Also pop personals, because this falling star is happening. Also, generally falling stars do still a lot of damage, even though it's nerfed a bit. And also, like, some people might not be dodging star fragments, they're lagging, like I am here, for example. I'm not lagging because I have a bad PC, I am lagging because I am combat logging. This is also important. Um, you should only have one person in your raid combat logging, because combat logging is like super fucking bad on this boss. Yeah, it just tanks your FPS for some reason. So just make sure like only one person is doing that. Maybe like one of your tanks where it's not that bad if they get hit by something. Figured out who should be doing it. And then the second overlap here, it's basically the same as the first one. If you play the first one, you can play the second one. It's not hard or anything. It's the same timings. Um, it doesn't really matter that much which side each dispel is on here. Um, it's sometimes even okay if you just let the 4th debuff expire. Like, it's not ideal. You want to dispel it if you can, but you can still play if it just expires. And then yeah, we gate out. This is where if one of your flyers is late, it can end really badly. Um, and even on these sets, you can just continue AoEing a little bit, because often you can get away. Like if one of your flyers doesn't make it in time, you can get away with it if you have enough AoE. And then for these beams, you just want to play it safe, yeah. Like you want to dodge towards the far beam. I don't do it as aggressively, but you see more people running towards this side because that way there's like no beams coming from this side anymore that can hit you, only from this side, and you're getting knocked away from the beams that could still possibly hit you. And you grab your feathers, spread out a little bit, like don't have everyone on the same spot because otherwise we're just taking each other feathers. Now, everyone but the tanks can basically fly the shortest path to the boss. Like someone has to take middle orbs, but like everyone else could just fly the shortest path to the boss. I don't know why our DPS didn't end up doing it. They didn't like it or whatever. I take the left path here. The DK takes the right path. But ideally, you wouldn't have more people flying on the left side here. It's a bit, but like it for most classes, it doesn't even matter. And we lost it here because it is a little bit more boss damage. I don't know. It's debatable if worth or not because there's a better healer lust in this phase. But obviously, if you have more boss damage, you have the potential to skip mechanics at the end. So yeah, that's something to consider. And if you don't last, you want to beat the 8th stack. You can survive the 8th one, but ideally you want that's like roughly the point you want to beat. Oh, also one thing, for like very specific, but for augmentation evokers, because most guilds will be running like 2 rogues and then whatever else, yeah. The augmentation evoker, they will be buffing prescience on both rogues, and then you want to make sure, like ideally, your 2 other even might targets are ranges, probably like the hunters or whatever, because then you can quite easily force shifting sands on the rogues. Like, let's say you stand over here for your even might, it hits the 2 hunters because they're the closest, plus the 2 rogues because they have prescience. Then you do your rotation, blah, you breath on the boss, and then you're on the other side of the boss in melee range. And when you then hit your breath of fire and upheaval, you are closest to the rogues, which forces shifting sands on them. And it's like a difference of like 1 million damage per rogue, yeah. So you can do it on the pull and both transition shields. And like super minor optimizations, but this is what the video is about, to be honest. If you like any damage you do now before the shield is up is actually more boss damage than you would do just by breaking the shield faster because you still have the damage buff. This is why I pop my trinket ASAP so it blows up before the boss is on the shield. Like but if you don't bloodlust here, like you have to be careful with this because obviously if you use all unused trinkets before the shield, you might not break the shield fast enough. But these are like small things you can do to squeeze out a bit more boss damage. Our boss damage in general isn't great on this fight. Partly because we're only running 1 augmentation evoker. Oh yeah, by the way, I never said something about this, but like you really want 8 meaties on this fight because you have 8 people flying and the feathers happen during fiery growth. And if you have like one of your assigned ranged gets fiery growth and they can't go up, you need to call a backup. Worst case, you need to call a second backup or whatever. It gets really awkward. If you have to do it, make sure to assign a range to the feather that is early on the prio here. So like in this case, Warlock or Evoker. Because if they have the second dispel, they can still make it to the feather. But like if they have the fourth, they won't make it basically. Okay, here. So for the first dispels, one minor thing, we have healers really far away. Like they're like 1 extra row behind, just to make it a little bit easier. And you have your regular feathers, just like P1 feathers. There's nothing new about these ones. stable team, except like now the tank isn't flying anymore. Like now we have a Demon Hunter flying instead, because it's like this time it's actually important that these are broken instantly. Oh yeah, and I'm a little bit all over the place because I didn't prep. I'm just YOLOing this, but for your fire growth targets, you always almost always want a freedom or like a, I don't know what's called from the hunter. The hunters can remove roots as well. On the third and the fourth debuffed target. There's a weak aura for this here as well. And by the way, just like I will probably link this in the description. Yeah, this is just regular pack. You just assign it to the node because they still have fiery growth while the root is happening. So you want to break them out. And like it's like there's like one set in P2 and one set in P3 where you don't do it. So as you can see, these flyers are really important to get to the vines instantly because the seeds are happening. And like if you break people out late here, the seeds are so much harder. Now, about the seeds. So this is our general assignment basically. We see this as like a half circle around the boss. And for us, left is here. So always like pretend you're looking from the fire to the boss. This is left side, this is right side. And it's the first few ones on each side are pretty specifically assigned to make it as consistent as possible. Basically, we have here me and the warlock. We take the two furthest left. And then the priests take the third and fourth furthest left. And so on. And like you can do this up to like 5 or 6 or whatever, and then it obviously gets like you can't just count that far at some point. But it's important that the ones that are really far away, they have to be soaked. Yeah, you can't, your backup won't make it there basically. And I also try to prio not only the furthest left, but also the furthest outside, right? So I don't want the like if there's a sea spawning here, I don't want the warlock to run there. I want to take it. I've seen guilds where both tanks take a seat in melee. I honestly don't understand why, because like I rather take a far one as a off tank in this case. So yeah, you can see this here. This is basically the furthest left one. If you see this as a circle, and this is like the left side of the circle, and then this will be the warlock, and I don't know, one priest star was here. This is the moonkin from the picture, and as you can see here, we always try to ping seats that are late. So we have like people who haven't picked one, they can quickly see where. We also see our mage is not assigned at all. He's like basically the backup guy who just tries to see which one is not being soaked, where did a lot of seeds spawn, where do I have to go maybe. And also one important thing about seeds, you can see this maybe in like because you have a lot of seeds spawning next to each other here. Generally, you do want to be in the spawn location already when they spawn, but you never want to move out of the spawn location. So let's say you have two people inside standing here ready to soak before the seed spawned. Now you might think, okay, someone else is already standing in the seat, so I just dip over to the other one. And that's a bad thing to do because like there's a little bit of server delay, whatever. It happens like basically all of the time that if you do this, you end up soaking both seats and you wipe the raid. So instead, what you do in this case, both players just stay in the same seat. You don't double soak it. Only one person will get the debuff, and then the other one that didn't get the debuff then can move to the new seat afterwards. So like never try to adjust or like move out of the spawning seat last second. That will cause wipes. And yeah, we just try to stick to this format as much as possible because it brings some level of consistency at least to it, and like expectations of other players, like what to do. For these dispels, it's just basically just another line. Yeah, one is here, two always on this side. of 1, and 3 and 4 you want to have on this side. We also give 3 and 4 some externals here, because Falling Star is about to happen. That, as you learned, does a lot of damage. You can also do this in P1 already, and like basically throughout the entire fight. Figure out how many externals you have, where you can use them on number 3 and 4. And then then the second one has a little bit of a different timing here, because you first soak the seeds and then have to get back into the boss really quick for roots. So these are 5-second seeds, but they're kind of more like 3-second seeds still, because you don't really have the full 5 seconds to get back to the boss. So again, you see, like, basically on this one, you want your entire raid pre-spread to get ready to soak seeds. And you also want everyone who soaks a seed wants to get to the boss instantly. And this is so the ones who are late, they can then, like, everyone else is already pre-spread for the roots, and they just have to adjust based on where everyone is standing already, instead of, like, if everyone comes in last second to the roots, you're going to have a big stack and people will die. So instead, everyone who has already soaked, get into position for roots instantly. You can see here, we still have some left here. We have an evoker rushing out here to get this, and now we have 2 people rooted outside, right? And you have additional freedoms in this phase, so call out if you need freedom to. It's fine if you get some extra trees, and you want to break them out early so that you can actually kill them with your AoE. Like, because these vines, again, those are the vines where you don't have people flying up, so you need a lot of AoE damage, and like you really want to pet these hard, yeah, because fiery growth is coming up, and your healers need to get in pre-position for the dispel. So these 2 people, see, one gets a Tiger's Lust, I think, or actually he breathed out of, I think I gave it to the wrong evoker, actually. I just guessed which one it was, but they got out themselves. And now you see, we break the roots, and the moment the roots are broken, healers need to move into pre-position already. Or the upcoming like they're already moving, they're all like almost already there. But see here now, the evoker has it, and it can instantly be dispelled. Yeah, this is really important that you're quick on this. Besides that, it's more or less like regular feathers, mushroom, fiery growth combo as you've known from P1. And then the same combo into seeds that we had at the start of the phase. You can see again, I tried to take like the furthest left plus outside. I could have taken this one as well. Like either of these. Like now this one is the one that's left over, and then our mage has to blink into it with like basically no time left, I think. Like the recover is not 100% accurate on this, but yeah, I mean the recover was already gone. Yeah, like this was very sketchy. And this falling star here at the end is also like you will lose people to this. This is very dangerous territory. And this is the healer lust, by the way. Like if you want healer lust, you do it right here at the second falling star in the face, right here. Then it lasts for for the second seeds and for the third seeds. It's still up right now, basically, if you do that. Okay, if you placed your fiery growths correctly, you will have all your feathers spawning in this line. If they don't spawn like this, that means you place the fiery growths too close to the edge. You can, at the start of P2, just drag the boss a little bit further away and then just start more over there. Some guilds do that. You don't need to, but you can. That's what you can do. Here again, everyone flies through the middle. I fly immediately to the left. I ignore the ones in the middle here. Our DK takes the right path again, and you need one person taking like the 2 green orbs in the middle. I think it's our warlock taking these. Everyone else can just take a straight path to the boss. Because you have a little bit less time than in P2. Like, the boss will land before you this time. Yeah, I don't really care if I take some red orbs here in this case. It doesn't slow me down, and I survive it as a tank anyway. And this is like this damage amp is a lot scarier than the P2 one, yeah. He doesn't need to be like, you need to have like a disc priest ramping really early to be safe. If you're late on pushing this, you will have a problem positioning the boss, because like the earlier you push, the more time you have until mechanics happen. This is also why I spec'd into speed taunt. Like for early pulls, it was good to have speed taunt so the boss gets in proper position. I just kind of remember that based on the patterns on the ground where to pull the boss, you could place a world mark down or whatever. Doesn't really matter. These first feathers are pretty simple because no fire on the ground yet. Again, I'm assigned to one. I mean, in theory, that would have been this one, but it doesn't matter because no one is taking the one in the front anyway, so I just grab this one. And it's never a question which one. Simple routes into fire beam, you should never have problem with this one. And this is arguably the hardest seeds in this phase, honestly. At least time-wise, not like HPS-wise, but time-wise, this is... Yes, you're still dodging beams. If there's a beam going through one of these seeds, I take it still with Celestial Brew, just so like because like I'm a person who can take it already, so I rather take one that's in fire, so everyone else can take another one. But other than that, we kind of follow the same logic in this one. Yeah, just need to be careful with beams on this one. And there's also this one. This beam was pretty easy, but sometimes you have one going through the boss late again, so be ready to call that out. And then same thing with dispels, yeah. You have an early dispel here on the healer instantly. The other ones, they just kind of build a line. Like this one wasn't even properly in position yet. It doesn't really matter that much in this phase anymore. It does make the feathers a bit awkward now, yeah. But I think, yeah, there's still 4 feathers now that are perfectly fine. I know, yeah. See our enhancer, you see him here, like the wolf or whatever. He runs into this feather now. Like, also, this is actually something I think a lot of people won't know, or like not aware. This circle does nothing at all when you dispel it, yeah? This is just a visual representation of how big the fire will get. So you see the feather spawning in here. So an enhancer can just run in there, grab the feather. He's not taking any damage, still not taking any damage. Runs away a little bit and then mounts up here in safety. It took 0 damage. He will be like half a second late or whatever, but that's fine. This is basically just like the P2 seeds, yeah. You break the roots into seeds. You follow the same logic as before. Now you have a bit of a special one. So these are the first P3 routes where you don't have people flying. So you need your own AoE damage. I think we had both the H and our red paladin burst into these. Also with second pots, I think. I even second pot here. Because you need to break this very early. And then now you have fiery growths happening while people are still rooted. So in this is the one combo of the fight where you have to freedom debuff 1 and 2 instead of 3 and 4. So I am Tiger's lusting the healer that's getting it here. We also have our healers like this in the raid frame, so they're always next to each other. It just makes everything quicker basically. I instantly give Tiger's Lust. He can run out. It doesn't really matter what position they're in when dispelled. They just need to be on this side of the room because we're moving to the other side. It just needs to happen as fast as you can, basically. The second one kind of just moves with us on the edge here next to the previous fire. Dispel on CD. The ranges, they gateway here. Meaties don't really have to. You can just follow the boss. Especially like our tank, he just pre-moves the boss before the fire beams happen just a little bit. Yeah, this just helps melees to have a little bit more uptime. It can cause like the roots not breaking early enough, but then you just don't have enough damage, to be honest. Again, dangerous falling star here for 3 and 4. Make sure you have some externals. Fire beams to dodge, yeah. What can I say? Just don't be greedy, to be honest. Fire beam going straight through the boss. Lose uptime if you have to. The boss shouldn't be moved too far away from the fire, otherwise you have bad seeds. Worst case, I would tank a fire beam here. If like 2 are overlapping, I would not want to move the boss, to be honest. And again, you have the root fly mushroom combo as you know it. Mushrooms are actually a bit late here. Like, I'm still soaking my last mushroom while the seeds are spawning, so this is one of the sets where I can't be in pre-position. I don't want to take this one here. I actually want to take this one, so I dodged it and then roll out. This is also because, like, specifically for my side, this is the healer side, yeah. I don't want the healer to be having to run over here. And then you get fiery growth while seeds may still be on the ground, and those still need to happen fast. Yeah, you still need to get the first dispel out fast. So ideally, you have healers soaking early, one seed early, and then they can dip already. The healer side for us is on the left side because that's where healers soak the seed. You could also have it on the right side. Doesn't hugely matter. We just had a rule that a maximum of 2 debuffs can be on this side of the room because we still need that room. And everyone else should be on this side. In this case, we have 3 debuffs on this side, which is also perfectly fine. Again, 3 and 4, just as I said, throughout most of the fight, will need to get a freedom, because again, they're getting roots while still debuffed. This is the second set of vines that you need to break yourself. This is where everyone else in the raid second pots that hasn't yet done it, and you just blast every AoE spell you have. You get falling stars, and then you have impacts where people are still rooted. Worst case, if there's an impact under you and your vine is not getting broken out, but you can self remove the vines from you with like disengage or whatever, right? You should do that. Like, don't get hit by a star fragment. And you get simple fire beam. Well, initially it's simple. It's not gonna be simple in a second here. So these feathers, they will always spawn a bit awkward because the boss is on the edge of the room. Basically, they can't spawn like on, I think, probably this ground marking, or they can't spawn outside or something. But to be honest, it gets easier this way, yeah. I mean, we have 4 in a row basically, an additional one. Like, it should honestly be easier for the feather people to just go from left to right. Now for the flyers here, this one is a bit spicy, yeah, because you see there's still a lot of fire beams, and the fire beams, they do kill you in the air. So what I specifically do, and I advise you that whatever tanks you're playing, you do something similar, whatever you can do to make this work. I actually forgot it. Like, I meant to do Fortifying Brew plus Rage Heart here, which gives me a 1.6 million shield. That means if someone else misses their flare bomb, they can call it out, and I can just soak a flagnant flare bomb and survive it. Yeah. Maybe not in this case because I took some fire beam damage or whatever, but I think it would still survive it, to be honest. And like that's the DPS number 1 prior to still get their flare bomb. Like, we have our red die here, but he soaked his flare bomb, and like as long as not everyone dies to a beam, that's perfectly fine. You don't plan on all 4 Dragon Riders to hit these vines. It just won't happen basically. You want to AoE these still as hard as you can. You probably won't have any CDs left for it, but you still want everyone to press their AoE button, because breaking these vines early is what is gonna get you the kill at this point. As you can see, there's still vines up. Seeds have already soaked. So these are more like 4-second seeds for us than 5-second seeds. And there's still a beam coming, yeah. I almost wiped the raid here because like I tried to get like one of these last second and I almost rolled through 2 of them. I end up getting none, weirdly enough. Like, I guess they were already soaked by someone else. I don't have this from my POV, but actually, let's go here. This last root spread is also very dangerous because you can have a beam go through the camp basically, yeah. So ideally, you have your camera facing this way, like not where he's facing right now, so you can actually see where the beams are coming from, and then maybe adjust a little bit based on that. Because you see, it takes a long time to get broken out. We got lucky here; the beam is only coming now, but it could have come much earlier. And like worst case, try to use your personal stuff to break the vines. Some extra treants should not kill you at this point. Like it's not ideal, but I guess it depends who they're running over. You don't want to lose a healer, like, but if you lose some random DPS, it's honestly not that bad at this point. And now the only thing that you still get is dispels. If the boss is lower, like I don't know, maybe like 2.5% or something, or maybe even 3, you could just call to not dispel them and only keep the 4 people alive. In our case, we still dispel them. It doesn't really matter how far they get out, just like don't overlap with the boss. Like we have people dying here, but like as long as these debuffs survive, the boss will die. And if you have really bad DPS, you might still have to break out these vines. But I guess in this case, you don't break the vines. What you do is just you DPS the boss. Anyone who can get out of the roots themselves does so, and just dodges this fire beam. And everyone who can't just dies. Yeah, that's just the reality, I think. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Actually, I think one thing I didn't show, but I don't know if it's not like that relevant, but just so you see how this weak aura looks like if you get a debuff, a fiery growth debuff. Where does he get it? Come on. Doesn't he get it here? Of course he doesn't. Yeah, he gets it. So DPS or like healers or whatever will get the text, which debuff they are, which dispel they are, plus a number. This number is basically, this is the earliest time you'll be dispelled. Yeah. So in this case, it says 3 because the first debuff has not been dispelled yet. So it's like if the healer was dispelled right now, you have 3 seconds until you need to be in position because that's when the vulnerability runs out and you could get dispelled. Now healer gets dispelled, this starts ticking down, 0, and now dispel. Yeah, just so you know like how this works, I guess. And yeah, this fight is just a lot of learning to do, lots of small details to learn, like all the freedoms, dispels, whatever. Everyone just kind of needs to know what they're doing, study VOD of their role, and pray to read some nerfs on the next reset, I guess. Anyway, I wish you the best of luck on your progress. If you have any questions, I will probably not end. No, I will answer them. But like, try to do it outside my raid hours if you DM me.